Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Thursday, October 17th. My name is Morgan Colby. Got Rick Lemon. I just like...
It's licking
what do
the
they call
streets.
that? What do they call that when you mix up two letters in two separate
don't
words?
ask me, bro.
Yeah, I don't even know. Rick Lemon, right across from me, as always. We are preparing for Week 7, the beginning of Week 7. I sat down at my desk today and I thought, you know what? It's almost Week 8, and Week 8 is halfway through the NFL season, just about. It's 17 weeks, so you could say Weeks 8 and 9 are halfway through. And that's scary.
That is.
This is very scary. On today's episode of the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast, we break down Week 7, discuss our starts and sits of the week. Before we jump into the news, check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the FF Champs on Twitter, at the Fantasy Champions on Instagram. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. Subscribe wherever you listen. Be sure to click the bell on YouTube for notifications when we release new YouTube videos. Leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on, and share this podcast with your friends. Let's get into the news. Amari Cooper had a quad injury. I believe we discussed that on Tuesday's show. His availability for Week 7 is in serious question, and he did not practice Wednesday. So it is concerning. You have to watch Amari Cooper for the rest of the week. If he does have a limited practice on Friday, he should be okay to go. But as far as right now, we're not sure if he's going to go or not. Just keep your eye on the practice reports. If he doesn't go, fire up those Michael Gallup shares.
Although this week,
Randall Cobb might play too
Amari
as well.
Cooper left in like the first quarter.
Yeah.
And Michael Gallup still only had like 6 points.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but they're getting... That offensive line is a shell. I started realizing that Dak has been getting punished.
Which was...
He was hit like 12 times against the Jets.
They're supposed to be the best offensive line in football, or at least up there.
Supposed to be. I think there was an injury, but I'm not sure. Cam Newton has been cleared to return to practice. The coach did say he has not returned to practice. Ron Rivera said he has not returned to practice, and he doesn't plan to bring him back into practice yet. So watch that situation if you have any feeling that Cam Newton will be the starter. Patriots wide receiver N'Keal Harry returned to practice on Tuesday. He has been activated so he can play in 2 weeks. This is an interesting little speculative situation. And you said, I don't know why I didn't think of that, but what I did for the waiver priority was I picked up N'Keal Harry, and then I slid him into my reserve spot in case you do have a reserve spot.
Yeah.
So that's don't go out and pick up N'Keal Harry if he's available. But if you have a reserve spot and he is available and you're not using that spot, I would pick up N'Keal Harry and slide him in there.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's like if you're not
I actually think N'Keal Harry will be decent when he comes back. I mean, we'll have to.
The reports coming out of camp before the season started were that he was behind Maurice Harris, who's like the 5th string wide receiver.
Ew.
So, and that he was having a hard time learning. But I feel like a talent of that caliber.
Well, and you said he had a hard time learning the offense.
Yeah.
So does him sitting out 8 weeks or 9 weeks
It might
help
help.
that?
I mean, the last reports we've heard of him in the offense are literally, 8 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like, things can't change over 2 months, but I guess we'll have to see with N'Keal Harry. But he's worth a speculative ad. If you're in a deeper league, he might even be worth a speculative ad if he's available. But if you're in a normal redraft league with 6 bench spots, do not pick up N'Keal Harry unless you have a reserve spot.
Yeah.
Josh Gordon was sidelined at Tuesday's practice, so he is currently recovering from a knee injury. I'm thinking that he's going to play this week. You have to watch Friday and Saturday, see if he practices and he's ready to go for Monday night. Chris Thompson was diagnosed with turf toe, so that might be 2 to 3 weeks, which is Adrian Peterson even more. He's so gross. I picked him up for 5 minutes and then was like, why am I doing this? And then I dropped him. It's not even... I mean, he's worth it if you need him, but he just has no upside and it feels so gross. I'd rather pick up a young running back with less opportunity who has some form of upside than Adrian Peterson at this point.
Yeah, but he's got all of the opportunity right now for the next 2 weeks.
It's like Frank Gore. It's literally Frank Gore.
Yeah, well,
he's a little bit better than Frank Gore. But Sammy Watkins was ruled out of Thursday night's Week 7 game against the Broncos. He did practice in a limited capacity on Wednesday. So he's not going to play this week, but I would say that he plays Week 8. So keep an eye on that situation. Redskins coach Bill Callahan said Darius Geis could return to practice next week. If he does return to practice next week, that means they activated him, which means that he can't play for 2 more weeks. So he would miss this week's game, next week's game, and the following week after that.
So essentially, Adrian Peterson's going to be alone for 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks.
And from what I saw from Darius Geis early in the season, the first 2 to 3 weeks, it wasn't good. So
I think he only played Week 1, actually.
He played Week 1, and he was bad. And I'm not sure what the matchup was, but I'm not really excited about his return. If anybody has... I know that one team in our league kept him, put him in the reserve spot, and kind of didn't do anything with him, so that's... Yeah. Alvin Kamara has a high ankle type issue that will limit him in practice. Now, normally you would say a high ankle sprain. They literally danced around high ankle sprain, and we're like, a high ankle type issue.
If it's a high ankle sprain, he's going to miss
be
time.
Out. Yeah, he's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. At
least, probably more.
To add to that, the Saints signed Zach Zenner for some running back depth.
Oh.
So if you have Latavius Murray on the waiver wire and you need a guy this week, I would pick up Latavius Murray.
Yeah,
and I would prepare for him to start this week. If Alvin Kamara does miss one game, that's going to be
a big time game for Latavius Murray.
Yeah. Coach Brian Flores announced that Ryan Fitzpatrick will start Week 7, so Josh Rosen goes back to the bench.
Yeah.
GG to your career. You got benched by the Dolphins.
He didn't exactly have a lot of help.
Yeah, that's true. I literally, they wasted 5 years. More Adam Gase, but they wasted 5 years on Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, and they won't even give Josh Rosen 3 games after. What did they trade him for? A third, second round pick?
I think it was a second. Yeah.
I would give him more. Like, your season's lost.
They'll probably go back to him. And they'll give Fitzpatrick a few games. Do you lose another 3 or 4 games in a row? Do you think
this is so? When this happened last year, when Fitzpatrick was with Tampa, and the reason why this was happening is because Dirk Cutter kind of didn't want to lose his job.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Brian Flores? This is it's not hot takey, but this is very speculative. Do you think Brian Flores might be on the hot seat for how bad the Dolphins are this year?
He definitely is, but it's really not all his fault. Like,
he traded an all-star.
Was that him that traded
tack,
it, or was it the GM?
Yeah, that's true.
The GM has put him in I don't know who the Dolphins GM is, to be honest.
I mean, they got a lot of draft picks, and
they're clearly tanking.
0-6. Yeah.
Like, the coach is going to get fired.
But like, why would you trade?
He's got the worst roster. Why would you trade
a second round pick for Josh Rosen to then tank for Tua?
That makes
no sense.
I really don't know.
Unless they don't plan on taking... It doesn't make any sense. Devin Singletary is practicing in full this week. He practiced in full on Wednesday, so he should be good to go against the Dolphins, and he should be in your starting lineups.
Yeah, against
we'll talk about that later against the Dolphins. But Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley are practicing in full this week, so... I would say they're both good to go against the Cardinals. And then Cliff Kingsbury said Christian Kirk remains in rehab. So that's not good for Christian Kirk. Let's move into our weekly matchups. And we'll start with that first game that I was just discussing. We'll jump right into it. The Dolphins at the Bills. And the over-under for this game is 39, which is higher than I thought. This is going to be so gross.
I think it's going to be like a 20-10.
Yeah. So, Josh Allen, and now you have Ryan Fitzpatrick back. Obviously, you're not starting Ryan Fitzpatrick, but Josh Allen against Miami. This is going to be the start of Josh Allen's. I've talked about the Bills' schedule this week being very good all the way until the end of the season. And so I feel like Josh Allen's going to have a really good stretch of games, and it starts with Miami.
I don't disagree at all, but I'll talk about that more later.
Oh, sweet. Now, for Ryan Fitzpatrick, I just wanted to touch on this. He's obviously not a start at all against the Bills.
No.
And I don't think anybody on the Miami Dolphins are worth a start. So we'll just say Kenyon Drake, don't start him. Preston Williams, don't start him. Mike Gesicki, don't start him. Devontae Parker, don't start him. Mark Walton, Kalen Ballage, you don't even have to talk about it. Don't start Dolphins. This is what we'll talk about on the Miami Dolphins. Do you think Ryan Fitzpatrick adds any value to the receiver core or the running backs?
No.
None at all?
No.
Because he can do more passing football than Josh Rosen. No. Not even like...
Nope.
So this is interesting. Devontae Parker...
I mean, if they do it this week, then yeah, but I have to see
Devontae Parker has been targeted about 7 to 10 times a game, and he's had about 50 yards receiving in every single game this year.
Yay.
With a better quarterback, or not a better quarterback, but a quarterback who can move the ball on the field a little more efficiently than Josh Rosen. Do you think Devontae Parker is like?
Can Fitzpatrick do that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like he did it with Tampa. I think he can do it here. Like I don't.
That wasn't the case the first few weeks.
Yeah, they also had Baltimore and I don't even remember who else, but
I think it was New England actually.
Yeah, so it's not like it was a good stretch of games for him to play in. But anyway,
but I'm still not starting.
So if as far as the running backs for Buffalo, Frank Gore, Devin Singletary, are you? I know I personally would probably start no matter how they split the work. I would probably start Devin Singletary just because of his efficiency. But is Frank Gore, without the workload that he's been getting, worth a start?
This week he might be because it's against the Dolphins.
Miami, yeah, that's what I was thinking. They're like the number 23rd.
But like going forward, long term, he won't be.
No, I mean, I'm curious to see how they utilize Devin Singletary after his hamstring injury. But would you start both?
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
right. I would.
You're not gonna have both on your team, so yeah, I would.
He has 10 rushing attempts for 127 yards. That's insane. And then John Brown and Cole Beasley are also, to me, I think they're both startable guys as well. They're not going to be... I would also say the same for Dawson Knox. Don't expect this team to score like 35 against Miami. No. Like, it's not going to be a huge game, but I think one of these weapons is probably...
Somebody's going to have a big game.
Yeah, somebody's going to have a good game.
Maybe even two.
I would say Dawson Knox, maybe not. But as far as Beasley and Brown... They're definitely guys who
Brown might get a touchdown, and Cole Beasley might get like a 9-10 catch game. So,
let's move on to the Jaguars and the Bengals. What is the over/under?
Man, these games, these 1:00 games, are so good.
I know. I'm so excited to watch them. As long as you have something in there. So we have Gardner Minshew against Cincinnati and Andy Dalton against Jacksonville. Andy Dalton is not a good stream this week. I would stay away from Andy Dalton. What about Gardner Minshew? Is he a start against Cincinnati this week?
He absolutely burned me last week. I didn't even start him in any of my leagues, but I thought he would be a good start, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
It seems like he would be a good start this week too, but I don't know if I can trust him, bro. After the week he just had.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he hasn't been bad. They just couldn't move the ball.
He had 4 straight very good weeks. For a streaming option, at least, where he got like 17 to 20
Now, who did
points.
they play last week?
The Saints.
So, New Orleans has had an up and down path. Like, you know what I'm saying.
But they do have a good defense, though.
Yeah, so, against Cincinnati, it's hard to say no to starting Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. Cincinnati's...
At the same
strength,
time,
though, I know they're 0-6, but the one thing they've been okay
at... They're
one
defensive strength.
Is defense. They haven't been good at defense, but they've been, average. They've been middle of the pack. So, it's just their offense absolutely blows.
If you're desperate, start Minshew. Otherwise, there's other options.
Exactly.
Leonard Fournette and Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has been extremely disappointing this year. We talk about it every week. But at this point, for me, it's either boom or bust.
I don't really start him week to week.
We're getting questions about dropping Joe Mixon.
I wouldn't drop him, but he's probably not my starting lineup.
There's some buy candidates out there. Start selling. Joe Mixon I think he's a sell at this point just because his...
Oh, well, that's obvious.
I just don't... He's had... like he had 3 games where he had like 4 yards a carry and it was looking good.
Yeah.
Last week it was just
trending up, and then yep.
I don't put it on him. I put it on his offensive line. But
the offensive line is. I've come to the conclusion that the Bengals have the worst offensive line in football. So Dalton gets hit every time he drops back.
On the flip side of that, Leonard Fournette may be the number 1 running back in fantasy this week, purely because he's facing the worst. The Bengals give up the most fantasy points to running backs.
Yeah,
the
they
most.
do, yeah.
And
you know why? Because teams are usually winning by like 10 points in the second half.
Fournette has had, with Minshew playing as well as he has played, even with the bad game last week, as well as he has played, it's pulling the defense back a little bit. It's making them not put that the stacked box in there where Leonard Fournette has a tough time running, which is what he was experiencing the first 3 weeks of the season. Yeah. So now that they're paying attention to Minshew, now Fournette is opened up a little bit on that line of scrimmage, and it has allowed him to become a more efficient running back. With him getting 20 to 25 carries, I mean, not 20 to 25 carries, 20 to 25 touches. I mean, he might get 20 to 25 carries.
Yeah.
But with that many touches, I feel like Leonard Fournette is going to be a great play this week. This is the best matchup you could possibly get.
No, it is.
Like if there's any week you could get 30 points, it's probably this one.
It pretty much is, really.
Yeah.
He's got to be a must start, obviously.
Would you start Chark?
Yes. I'll talk about that, actually.
Would you start Westbrook?
Probably not.
Okay. We're going to disagree on something this week.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about that later, though. Joe Mixon. I already talked about Joe Mixon. Tyler Boyd, Auden Tate. Auden Tate has been really good the last 2-3 weeks, but against Jacksonville, he's a sit. And then would you start Tyler Boyd?
Honestly, I don't know. Boyd's so hit or miss this year. Yeah. It's, again, not just like Joe Mixon. It's really not his fault.
Right.
That offense just absolutely blows. Against Jacksonville, maybe.
Right.
I think if you have a better option, though, go with the better option.
Okay.
But
let's move on to Vikings at Lions. 44-point over-under for this game. It should be interesting to see how this game breaks. The one good game at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the game here, but let's start off with the quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins and Matthew Stafford. Now, Stafford against the Minnesota Vikings defense doesn't look like it's not a great matchup. It's not a great start. It's a mediocre. So far this year, the pass defense for Minnesota has been relatively mediocre, but we know the talent in their secondary and on their defensive line. So I would say that he's not a go.
He has been very underrated, though, so far this year, Matt Stafford. Oh, yeah, definitely. I think he's had a lot of easy matchups, too. But as far as Kirk Cousins, he's going up against Detroit. Detroit has also had a mediocre secondary, a mediocre defense in general this year. So as far as Kirk Cousins is concerned, I feel like you're okay playing him this week, but there are probably better weeks. Way better options.
There's way better options out there. He has had 300 passing yards in 2 consecutive weeks. In 2 weeks of relevant fantasy production.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago he had 300.
If he has it 3 straight weeks, then all of a sudden you got to be talking about Kirk Cousins again.
Yeah, I agree with that. But Kirk Cousins against Detroit, probably not the best. Let's talk about running backs. Carry on my wayward son against Minnesota Vikings defense. Carry on had a poop for a game last week. He was average.
But he still got a touchdown. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's true. As a Carry On owner, obviously you're starting him probably. Are you nervous about starting him against Minnesota?
Not really. A little bit, but not really.
Why?
Because it really hasn't mattered who he's played this year. He's gotten like around 15 to like in between 10 to 15 points. Like it's just what he is. He's gonna get 15 to 20. He's probably gonna get 20 carries, and then he's gonna be slightly involved in the passing game at least. So he's gonna get points.
Yeah. And then Dalvin Cook is a must start against Detroit. Thielen and Diggs. They're both Diggs literally. So if Diggs did not catch a touchdown last week, Adam Thielen would be 5 touchdowns ahead of him. But because he caught 3, He is now 4 touchdowns to 5 touchdowns on Thielen. Thielen is the more consistent guy, obviously.
He is.
They're going to go to him, even though they both have the same amount. Like, basically, Thielen has 26 receptions. Diggs has 23.
That happened all, like, pretty much.
I know. It's like freaking one game. The last 3 weeks for Stefan Diggs have been, not like he had 5 points in between, but he had like a 10 to 12 point game, and then he had that 40 point game. 3 weeks ago is when the teams decided that, maybe running the football isn't going to win us football games. So they've been passing a lot more the last 3 weeks. So you're starting to see Diggs and Thielen get back to what they were last year. Against Detroit. Are you nervous about starting either one of these guys?
A little bit. I'm still starting Thielen no matter what.
Yep.
A lot of people are going to start Diggs, especially after the week he had.
Yeah.
I'm still nervous.
See,
I'd probably still start him.
Here's the reality that I've reached on Diggs is that he's going to be a lot of people are like
bust.
Yeah, like you're going to put him in your lineup and you can expect him to get like 3 points or 5 points. But you could also get a big, and so if you have the situation where your team is like really good and you don't have to worry about, you have like 2 of the best running backs in the league, 2 of the best wide receivers in the league. Yeah, Stefan Diggs, you can slide him in your flex and be comfortable with that because if he has a bust week, you're probably covered. But if you need him as like a main starter, you're kind of fricked. I just want to see if Diggs is going to be good with them passing the football more, and if they are going to continue passing the football more. That's the real question. And they're going to have to in order to continue winning. So we'll see what happens with Diggs. And then we have Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones has been kind of up and down. He's not really been bad, but he just can't really catch touchdowns, and the yardage isn't there for him. Golladay, probably a start against Minnesota if you have him. And then I would sit the Hawk, and I wouldn't play Rudolph either.
Nothing you said I disagreed with. So.
Okay, I was going to wait for you to disagree. Raiders at Packers. This is another bad game. 46.5 point over-under. Let's start off with the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr. Rodgers, obvious must start. This is probably going to be if there's any week to start Rodgers, probably this week.
Yeah, he's kind of been up and down this year.
Yeah.
He's really not matchup dependent anymore. But it is a good matchup. It's funny, every week, so we said to sit Rodgers pretty much every week this year, but the 2 weeks we said to start him, he got 27 and 20.
Yeah.
So I'd start him again this week.
Yeah, start him against the
Raiders,
Oakland.
bro.
Yeah, I was trying to put together in my brain the word. Derek Carr is a sit.
Oh, yeah.
Not even he probably shouldn't even be on your team. Josh Jacobs against the Green Bay Packers defense. They've been pretty porous against the run this year.
But they also will probably be losing in this game very early.
Yeah.
You're still obviously starting Josh Jacobs, but
right.
I am nervous if I own him.
And then Aaron Jones against Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams against Oakland. Oakland they've given up the 9th least fantasy points to running backs this year. And I guarantee you in like 3 weeks that's going to completely change because their run defense is not good. It's like it's not that great. And I don't understand. I think it's because I don't know. I don't know why they're ranked number 9 right now. They don't have anything. I mean, that guy Cleveland Farrell, I don't even know. Is he still playing?
I don't.
I mean, he's been the one addition to their defensive line, and he's been relatively good. But I just don't understand how they're stopping the running game.
Their whole team has been actually semi-decent this year, which is surprising.
But I would say start Aaron Jones. Now Jamal Williams is an interesting guy because if they're splitting reps, right down the middle, like what's the difference between Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams?
There shouldn't be much.
So if you're gonna start Jones, the only difference to me
is it going to be a complete
red zone opportunity.
Well, that and is it going to be a complete split, or is it going to be like 55-45?
After Jamal Williams, after Aaron Jones fumbled on Monday night, they went like all Jamal Williams, and he had a really good game. So I don't like Jamal. I like Jamal Williams as a person, but I don't really like him as a football player. He's not a great running back. So it's like.
Well, he played good last week.
Yeah, he played good. Well, that's going to be the excuse for LaFleur. He's going to be like, hey. So I would against Oakland. I mean, if you're going to start Jones, start Williams, I guess. But
wow, I probably wouldn't.
See, that it's so tough though. Adams is still a question on whether he comes back this week. I told you turf toe holds you out for long periods of time.
Apparently.
And not only does turf toe hold you out, because this happened to A.J. Green last year, but it can also cause other foot injuries. So if he does miss 2-3 games due to this turf toe and then comes back, like they're taking their time on it because they don't want it to re-injure.
Yeah, they got to be cautious.
But if he does re-injure it or get hurt again, he's probably going to be shut down for the rest of the year. Foot injuries for wide receivers are so annoying, and they're hard to come back from. And it's just, I don't know. Keep an eye on Devontae Adams. If he does play this week, he's a go. Not even a question. Now, there was a guy, Alan Lazard, who played on Monday Night Football, caught a touchdown. He had like 100 yards receiving, right? Somewhere around that, 80 to 100 yards receiving.
Okay.
He's a wide receiver, fifth wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. Geronimo Allison and Marquez Valdes-Scantling kept on getting injured and coming back in and going back and forth, so they were forced to pass it to Lazard. Now, he wasn't on our waiver wire column, but if Devontae Adams misses time and one of Marquez Valdes-Scantling or Geronimo Allison misses time against Oakland, are you interested in Lazard?
Oh, gosh. Probably not.
Because Aaron Rodgers has glowing reviews for him.
Still probably not.
Yeah. All set with that. And Jimmy Graham, I mean, I told you to start him last week, and I'm sorry. But I would say that Jimmy Graham against the Raiders is not a bad start. Would you disagree with that?
I'm not really a fan of Jimmy Graham.
And then, I forgot to talk about this. The Walrus, start him.
Yep, that's fair.
Rams at Falcons. It is a 52.5 point over-under. We got Jared Goff at Atlanta. So your initial thought is Atlanta. That's a good game, but it's at Atlanta.
Oh, it's a road game.
I'm not really a huge fan of that for Jared Goff.
Also, it should be a good matchup. Atlanta has stunk this year against the pass. Atlanta's defense is not that good, but Jared Goff got me minus 0.88.
Do you have to start him against Atlanta?
Lost me the game this past week.
Yeah.
I'm not starting Jared Goff.
Okay. That sounds like a bitter
It's
Jared
very
Goff
bitter.
owner.
I scored 150
fantasy
points.
Analyst.
Lost by 3.
As a fantasy,
all Jared Goff had to do was score 3 points, and I would have won.
As a fantasy analyst, is this this is a startable matchup?
I'm not starting him.
Okay, all right. I should probably give an opinion on Jared Goff, but I really don't want to have a sound bite. So there's that.
It's not like he's been great this year either.
No, he's been bad. I mean, at home at times he's been good. We told you to start him last week because he was at home.
Even when he's been quote unquote good,
right,
he's getting 20 points. Like that's his peak.
Yeah. I would say against Atlanta, you kind of have to just run with it and hope to God that he doesn't completely choke. But because it's going to be a game that they're going to have to. I mean, I don't even know. Their defense is so freaking good now. He might not. What's his name? Might not even play. Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
So that's so tough. I would say start him. What's the over under again? 52.5. Yeah, start him.
Yeah,
I'll go with that. And then Matt Ryan is a start. Devonta Freeman finally showed fantasy owners why they drafted him in the second round. He had 25 fantasy points last week.
He's been playing better and better each week.
He's been playing better and better each week. Devonta Freeman against the Rams is a tough matchup.
Has he reached the point where he must start again, though?
I'm not sure that I would. See, here's the problem. We're entering into bye weeks. And like the last couple weeks, we've experienced some bye weeks. But this is like these last week, this week, and next week are the biggest chunks of bye weeks.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to be forced to start Devonta Freeman if you have a running back on a bye. So you really don't have a choice.
I think you're starting Freeman either way. I'm not
really.
I don't think he's gonna have a crazy week because the Rams are a tough matchup. But
the last 2
the way he's played,
the last 2 weeks. Last week, the week before last week, he had 9 targets. Last week, he had 8.
Exactly.
So it's like, if this is going to be a shootout, Devonta Freeman's and he scored two receiving touchdowns last week. So, for him, this is not going to be a ground game situation. This is going to be him getting involved in the passing game against a team that's probably going to score a lot. And so it's if this is a shootout between Atlanta and Los Angeles, Devonta Freeman, I agree, he's a start.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley might miss time for the second week in a row. Malcolm Brown was hurt on Sunday. I haven't heard any updates on him, but if he does miss time, it's time to fire up Darrell Henderson.
If everybody's hurt.
The people wanted it for so long during the offseason, and he ended up being the fifth string running back. But he was actually not bad this week. He had 6.7 yards a carry on 7 attempts, so it was 7 for 39. So he did not have a bad week when he was given the opportunity. He split snaps with Malcolm Brown, and if he is the full-time starter next week, I think he's worth a start against Atlanta. And he's the better pass-catching back between Brown and himself. So I don't know if Gurley's going to start. If Gurley does start, he's an obvious play against Atlanta. But otherwise, if you have Malcolm Brown, you're safe to start him. And if you have Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown doesn't play, you're safe to start him as well. Is there anything else you wanted to say about that backfield? Because it seems like a clusterfuck right now.
Yeah, it kind of is. I really just want to stay away from it, to be honest. But if Malcolm Brown plays,
it's whoever is starting is going to have the week.
But then it's they'll say that, and then Sean McVay will use the other running back.
Yeah, it's true. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Brandon Cooks, I feel are all starts this week. And I know Brandon Cooks has had a bad season so far, but
he's had 2 good games. He's boom or bust. This could be a third good game for Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I agree. I think all wide receivers for the Rams are startable this week, and I also think Gerald Everett is startable. Julio Jones, you have to start him. He's your first overall pick. He's your first round pick, so you got to start him. Calvin Ridley, I would sit this week against the Rams. I would not start him. And then Austin Hoop, there it is.
Number 1 tight end in fantasy, bro.
Are you nervous about playing against the Rams?
I have Hunter Henry on my team too, and I might start him this week over Hooper, but I haven't decided.
All right, let's move on to the next game. Texans at Colts, 48-point over-under, I believe. And Deshaun Watson, obvious start. Jacoby Brissett against Houston. I feel like this is going to be a high-scoring game, and
it is at home.
But I don't really want to start Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I don't really
I'm not really a huge fan of that. So I would sit Brissett this week if you do have him.
You probably don't.
You probably don't. I was like, what? Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. I would bench both of them if you have them against Houston.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I'll probably talk about that a little later.
Marlon Mack is back after his bye week. So if you have Marlon Mack, fire him up. Get him ready to go against Houston. I don't expect a massive game, but he'll have his opportunities.
I think he'll be pretty solid, though.
Hopkins has been so mad this year. It's been unbelievable. I am the proud owner of a DeAndre Hopkins share that I acquired this week.
Yeah, while he was at its lowest.
It scares the heck out of me because he's been absolute trash. But he's still getting targeted 10 times a game. So I at some point, this is a good offense. At some point, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. So start him against Indianapolis. Are you starting Will Fuller?
No.
Okay. And then T.Y. Hilton, he's back. Do you start him against Houston?
Yes.
Okay. He had the look. And then no Ebron. Stay away from Ebron. The Colts have given up a lot of fantasy points to tight ends, opposing tight ends. I think they're the number 2.
Oh, that's interesting.
Interesting. But so they've had Darren Fells, Jordan Atkins, and Jordan Thomas all score fantasy points this year at the tight end position. Darren Fells and Jordan Atkins.
I think Darren Fells has been probably the better.
Yeah, both of them have been better than Thomas, but I was tempted. I'm like, which one do you choose?
Yeah, that's the problem, yeah.
So I really wouldn't start either one of them. 49ers at Redskins, 41.5-point over under. This is another bad game. NFL, you've completely failed us. Jimmy Garoppolo against Washington is a start. You have to start him this week. And Case Keenum has been so meh, it's unbelievable. He's actually 1,136 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions.
Been okay, but He not against San Fran this week.
Yeah, San Fran, one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. I'd probably sit all options for the passing game for the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, I'm not starting any. I'm not even starting Peterson either. There's not a single guy on the Redskins.
Is there a guy in the receiving core of San Francisco while we're here that you would
Probably
like
not.
to start this week?
Probably not.
Dante Pettis has ascended back into the number one wide receiver role or number two wide receiver role, whatever you want to say. He's getting more targets. He's getting more of the snap share. This is not a week you start him. This is a week you wait and see. This might also be a Saturday. Pick him up, stick him on your team, and then if he has a big week, you beat the waiver budget audience. So that might be a situation that you can, if you have the roster space, you might be able to pick up Dante Pettis.
Now,
for this
do you
week.
start with a good matchup? Do you start Coleman and Breida? Do you start one of those guys?
Breida is the
San Francisco run offense has been so good this year.
I don't mind starting either of them, and against Washington specifically. If there's a week that you're going to start both of them, it would be this week. Breida is not a guy that you like. There are going to be people who are going to start him expecting him to be like this big running back like he was. Like he's not. Yeah. Just he's a low end RB2 at best. Tevin Coleman is the guy in this offense. He's going to get the red zone shares. He's going to. I mean, he literally. A lot of people dropped him. And if you got him off the waiver wire, you got an absolute steal because Tevin Coleman is the starting. He's going to get more than 55% of the work, and I feel like he's a great option to have. You start both of them, I would say.
Okay, I agree.
And then George Kittle is a must start, and don't start any tight ends for Washington. Let's move on to Cardinals at Giants, 49.5 point over under. Have we reached the 4 o'clock games yet? No, this is the last 1 o'clock game.
Dang it.
Cardinals at Giants. This is probably one of the worst games of the week.
Oh, yeah, this is so bad.
We don't talk about defenses, but I had the epiphany this week of like, this is going to be the lowest scoring game. Arizona might score a lot of points.
Yeah, Arizona might score
they're not as bad as I think they are.
Arizona, they might go 3-3 after this week.
3-3-1. See, the funny thing is that so I would start. Just agree or disagree with this. I would start Kyler Murray against the Giants. I would start Daniel Jones against Arizona.
Disagree. Better options
against Arizona though.
He hasn't been good this year. Other than the one game against
6 picks.
Other than the one game against the Buccaneers.
Maybe these haters were right. I would start David Johnson, and then if Barkley does return this week, which it looks like he's going to, he's an obvious start. If David Johnson can't go again, Edmonds is a must start. Or he went last week.
He did.
Yeah,
He's been playing.
I told you. I thought he didn't play.
Edmonds has been playing with David Johnson, and he's still
playing well. So I would start both of them, and then what are you going to do with Larry Fitzgerald at this point? Do you want to play him this week or?
Yeah, he's still a start, especially with Christian Kirk missing another potential week.
I agree. And then Golden Tate. I don't think Sterling Shepard's going to play this week.
No, Tate might be a start. With the good matchup.
I would start Tate and Engram.
Yeah. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to have a bad week, I should clarify. I just think because it is a good matchup and it's at home, but I just think there's better options out there.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Chargers at the Titans. 40 point over under at 4 o'clock. We have Rivers. We have Mariota. Not Mariota anymore. Ryan Tannehill.
It's going to be Tannehill, yeah.
So, we'll take that into consideration. Phillip Rivers, it's so surprising to see. I mean, has Mariota turned the ball over?
No, he hasn't.
In other ways, like fumbling it or making poor decisions.
The numbers are not like you just see those numbers in his completion percentage, and you're like, oh, that's not bad. But like, it's because all he throws is like 5 yards green passes. Right. He doesn't.
So Rivers has almost 1,700 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's been good this year, but the Chargers offense has been putrid the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Against Tennessee, I'm not starting Rivers. Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, who I'll talk about later, I'm nervous about either one of those guys against Tennessee. Keenan Allen has been bad the last 3 weeks.
3 straight weeks with like 4 points.
Like, you can't sit him.
What about Hunter Henry, baby? After the 26 fantasy point week
against Tennessee, sit him.
Yeah.
And then, on the other side of it, Derrick Henry's going to get his opportunity against Los Angeles, so you start him. I've talked about. See, I disagree with you a little bit. You think that Ryan Tannehill. Actually, wait a minute. Do you believe that Ryan Tannehill boosts the value of Corey Davis?
I think he
Brown?
can.
Okay, I agree with you, and I'll say that he will probably do that. But we'll see. We have to see him in a full game. He is a better passer than Mariota.
Yeah.
So it's not like a massive upgrade.
No, it's not.
But he's going to pass it more, and he has.
It's better than going from Mariota to Blaine Gabbert.
And he's shown like connection with Corey Davis and AJ Brown. So, we'll see what happens with that. But it's been a pretty even spread between the wide receivers this year. I wouldn't start any of them against the Chargers though. And then Delaney Walker, who has a decent start against the Chargers. So you can fire him up if you want.
Yeah.
Saints at Bears, 38-point over under. This is the low. I believe this is the lowest point total of the week. Bridgewater, Trubisky. Trubisky, I believe, is back. I believe he's back.
Okay.
He's probably not anywhere near your fantasy team. He blows.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater is a sit. Kamara might play. And he's an obvious start. Latavius Murray against Chicago is so tough.
If Kamara doesn't play, I know it's a tough matchup, but I would still start Latavius Murray.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I would.
Okay.
I feel like I would, but I don't know.
Just because I think he'd be forced to get used so much in the game.
So Monty has been against Chicago. Against New Orleans, who's been a very good rush defense this year. I would say David Montgomery is a no-go.
Yeah, he's probably just to sit until he does.
Yeah, until he does something. There are if you want to believe reports, there are rumors floating around that the Bears quote figured it out with their running game.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Michael Thomas. He's been good no matter what quarterback he's
been
had.
Fantastic. Really.
So just start him. Hold your breath and start him. Don't start Cook. And then Robinson has been so hit or miss.
Yeah.
And it's like he's so talented. If he had a quarterback, he would just be very good. And Mitch Trubisky's just not that. Imagine Allen Robinson with like Patrick Mahomes.
Oh yeah, it'd be nice.
It'd be pretty good, but he has Mitch Trubisky. I would not start him this week against New Orleans. I'm sorry, I keep saying Chicago. And then Trey Burton is rumored to be back this week. Is that something that
no, I'm not touching? Not touching him with the 50-foot pole. At least not until he plays.
All right, let's talk about the Ravens at the Seahawks. 49.5 a point over under. So this is going to be. I think it's actually they might score over that 49.5 point over under.
Oh, okay.
Just because these are the two best fantasy quarterbacks.
They are, but they're also two decent defenses too. So
yeah, that's true. I would start Lamar Jackson. I'd start Russell Wilson because
you have to.
You have to. Mark Ingram, I believe, would be a good play this week, but it's
you still got to start.
Yeah, you still got to start him, but it's going to be tough. And then Chris Carson, I would start. Rashad Penny has been struggling with injuries.
Yeah,
when he's been on the field, he's gotten like 8 to 9 touches a game.
Yeah, he has gotten a few touches.
So it's like he's getting involved, but the more he's like out and not playing, the more Chris Carson just dominates.
Yeah.
And so Rashad Penny doesn't have any, like this year, doesn't have any shot at the starting job.
Right.
Tyler Lockett, are you starting him against Baltimore?
I think you do start Lockett. He had a bad week this past week, but he's been pretty good overall.
And then Marquise Brown has been on the injury report. I don't believe he practiced Wednesday. So would you start him this week? He's kind of been the rookie receiver roller coaster.
I probably wouldn't start him just because, you just said, he's kind of been a roller coaster.
Luke Wilson is the starting tight end for Seattle, replacing Will Dissly. I don't believe that Luke Wilson is going to do Will Dissly things.
No.
I would start Mark Andrews this week because you have to.
Yeah, pretty much.
Eagles at Cowboys, 49-point over under. It's the second to last game of the week. Sunday Night Football. You have Carson Wentz going up against Dallas. I'd start him probably. Would you?
Yes, I would. Yeah.
Dak Prescott going up against Philly, who we'll talk about later, but I would start him as well.
Okay.
Jordan Howard going up against the Dallas Cowboys defense. They have actually given up the 23rd least amount of fantasy points to running back so far this year. So it's a good matchup for Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders. I don't know that I would start Miles Sanders, but I would start Jordan Howard this week if you do have him. And then as far as Ezekiel Elliott,
yeah.
What I just wanted to put this in here. Last week, his total, I think it was somebody released a metric and said his total snap percentage has increased in the last 2 weeks 156%.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He's getting like I think 90 something percent of
that's insane.
snaps. That is Zeke. Mike, we talked about the wide receiver situation a little bit for Dallas. Michael Gallup and Randall Cobb are probably going to be the two main features. The only reason why I would say I would start Michael Gallup or Randall Cobb, especially if Randall Cobb is back, is because they're facing Philadelphia's poorest secondary.
Yeah.
And so I would be okay with starting those two this week if you need a wide receiver because somebody's on a bye. And then what about Jeffrey and Deshaun? Deshaun Jackson is still not practiced. As of today, you're listening to this podcast in the morning, and practices haven't happened on Thursday yet. Deshaun Jackson has not practiced yet.
Yeah.
So it's Alshon Jeffrey.
I would start Jeffrey, especially if Jackson doesn't play, but that's about it.
Is this a comeback game for Zach Ertz?
Could be.
Okay.
Could be. I think it will, actually.
And then you have Jason Witten, who's the everlasting...
Mr. 8 points a game off one touchdown and 2 catches for 20 yards.
He'll do it every week, too. Freaking unbelievable. It's against Philly. Let's get it.
Okay.
Maybe he's a good streaming option. Then the final game of the week, Patriots Jets, 42.5 point over under. Sony Michel, I'll start off by talking about the quarterbacks. I jumped right into Sony.
Okay.
Darnold against the Patriots is a sit.
Yeah. I loved Sam Darnold.
Brady against the Jets is concerning.
Yeah, that is very
This concerning. Is it. I'm telling you right now. Now, I know Tom Brady has good games on night games. He usually has good fantasy games on night games. I think Tom Brady, this is the week that we finally see bad fantasy quarterback Tom Brady.
Okay.
And it's been like sneaking its way up to the fantasy owners of Tom Brady who keep starting him week after week. And last week was going to be the week until Tom Brady punched it in for a rushing touchdown or twice. Poultry touchdowns away. So and he had 21 fantasy points. So he was having a very bad
in week
day.
4 against the Bills, he had 3 fantasy points.
But people think right now that he's still good, and against the Jets, he might be a good matchup. I feel like Brady's finally going to get back to.
I don't think he's going to have fantasy. An awful game.
I'm talking like 10 to 15 points.
I could see like 15 this week.
So I would sit Brady. I'd find somebody else and sit Brady.
I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's similar to the Patriots-Bills game.
Yeah.
But I think so. I'm not like crazy high about anyone on either team this week, to be honest.
Michelle, not against the Jets.
I'll talk about it later.
Okay, Lev Bell is a start.
He has to, but don't expect a week where he gets like 40 yards rushing and like 5 or 6 catches for like 40 yards.
Now against the Jets, I don't think Josh Gordon is a bad play if he does play, but
I'm probably not starting.
I don't
Josh
think
Gordon.
It's a great play.
Yeah, the only guy I'm starting right now is probably Julian Edelman.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then you have Jamison Crowder, Robbie Anderson. This is their last hard matchup, probably of the season.
Yeah.
Have the Patriots played the Jets already this year?
They have.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
they
so this will be one of their
the Jets.
This will be one of their last bad games of the season. I don't really know what to expect from Crowder or Robbie Anderson.
I like both those guys, but not this week.
Not this week against the Patriots D. And there's no tight ends on either team. I don't know if Herndon's going to play, but he's not worth a start if that's the case. That'll do it for our weekly matchup breakdown. Let's move into our starts and sits of the week really quickly because we've run out of time. We had to do extra matchups today because we ran out of time on our last podcast.
Yep.
So I'll do my starts of the week at quarterback and my sit of the week at quarterback. So Dak Prescott against Philadelphia.
Okay.
They've given up a lot of fantasy points to quarterbacks. They have been over the last 2, 3, 4 weeks very porous, and they've lost a lot of members a lot of members of their secondary to injury. So I would start Dak. If there's any week Dak is going to be good, the next 2 games for Dak Prescott, he has Philly, bye week, Giants. Philly and Giants, great matchups. The rest of the season is garbage. So you're going to get these are the last 2 weeks that I feel like Dak is a startable asset for your fantasy team. And a lot of people are going to be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's fair.
And so I'm going to start Dak against Philly. Teddy Bridgewater against Chicago. This is probably the toughest matchup he's going to face of his starting tenure. He's like 1 or 2 weeks away from Drew Brees coming back. So I would sit Bridgewater this week against Chicago just because of the difficult matchup.
Yeah.
Who are your starts at quarterback and your sit?
For me, I'm starting Josh Allen this week. He's playing the Miami Dolphins.
Well, that's real easy.
Yeah, which we know
they give up the number 1 most fantasy points.
Yeah, I think people. He's not only the start of the week. I think he's going to finish in the top 3 for fantasy quarterbacks. I think that might be a hot take, but
okay.
I think he's going to have.
This is the start of Josh Allen.
He's going to have a monster week this week. I hope I get that right. I think Phillip Rivers is a sit this week.
Okay.
He's been so up and down this week.
I was thinking about that too.
He's still owned in a lot of leagues. He's still getting started in a lot of leagues. But just like the way he's played, especially the last 2 weeks, has not been good. And the Tennessee Titans, believe it or not, has been a pretty good defense this year. They're always under the radar of having actually a pretty solid defense.
Who?
The Titans.
Oh, yeah.
Like every year, they're like, oh, it's just the Titans.
This year it's been more recognized.
Yeah, so they do have a solid defense. So I'm not starting Phillip Rivers this week.
Okay. My start of the week at running back, Philip Lindsay /
Oh!
Royce Freeman.
Oh.
So
I was going to give you credit.
So, you want to know what? Last week, Philip Lindsay had 29 snaps and Royce Freeman had 38 snaps. So you can take your Philip Lindsay love and suck it.
Okay.
I don't like Philip Lindsay.
Who would have thought?
But anyway, against Kansas City, I think Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman on Thursday Night Football are both good plays. If you need a good flex, Royce Freeman is a good play. And then the only reason why I say this is because Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman are basically getting, when you go back and you look at the first 6 weeks of the season, Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman are basically getting the same amount of, they're getting the same amount of touches. So it's like, yes, Philip Lindsay has had 2 bigger gains, but that's because he scored the touchdowns. Royce Freeman, on the other hand, a lot of people would be like, well, for Philip Lindsay, he's getting more red zone work. Royce Freeman has had red zone touches in every single game this year. So at some point, Royce Freeman will capitalize on those opportunities. He's the better pass catcher of the 2, but I feel like both of them were a great start this week, and I don't think either one of them you can look at and go, oh, this guy completely blows. So I would start both against Kansas City. And then my sit of the week at running back is Austin Eckler against Tennessee. I would sit Eckler. I might even sit Melvin Gordon.
Oh, that's a hot
against
take.
Tennessee. I don't like either running back in this situation, but I would sit. I didn't put him on the list, so I didn't take that. I would consider it with Melvin Gordon. No, Austin Eckler is a sit this week.
Okay. For me, the start of the week is actually Matt Breida. For me at running back.
Not Tevin Coleman?
No, it's not Tevin Coleman.
Why?
I'll do Matt Breida / Tevin Coleman.
Okay, good. All right.
Because I think
I was like, what?
I just said Matt Breida because it was the first
Coleman?
name. Yeah, I think both those guys are going to have monster weeks this week against Washington. I see the 49ers taking a lead early and just, playing 49ers football this year, which is defense and running the ball. And the way the 49ers have ran the ball as a team this year has been fantastic.
Right.
And the Redskins ranked 28th against the run, so not good. And then for my sit, he's burned me. And even when he's done good, I haven't liked it. It's Sony Michel. Sony's my sit this week. He's just, like last week, for example, I said to start him. And if you ignore the final drive of the game where he had 5 carries for 30 yards, he would have had 7 fantasy points. He's just been consistently average all year.
Yeah.
And I think against the Jets, I think he's really only succeeded in times where it's been blowouts. So this week against the Jets, I don't think it's going to be a major blowout.
Yeah.
So I don't see Sony doing much this week, even though he's probably in your lineup.
Let's move to our starts and sits for wide receivers. I'm going to say start of the week, Brandon Cooks. He has one of his boom games against Atlanta. He is in Atlanta, so at Atlanta, that makes me slightly nervous. But I do think it's going to be a good week for Brandon Cooks. And then my sit of the week at wide receiver is disagreeing with you.
Okay.
It's DJ Chark.
Yeah. So why? Tell me quickly.
So
we won't get into this too much. But.
We won't get into it too much. Give me 1 second. I have a reasoning.
I'll say my start of the week.
Stay yours, and then I'll
DJ Chark. Now I kind of know the.
It's like DJ Chark.
I think I know why you're gonna say he's the sit of the week because I see a number in front of me.
Yes. So through the first 7 weeks of the fantasy season, the Cincinnati Bengals have given up the 29th.
Yeah.
Most fantasy points to wide receivers, and they've played 6 straight weeks. So,
I feel like. So can I just make? I'll just make a counter to that.
Okay.
I think. I think it's because the Bengals have been getting killed so badly that teams don't even bother throwing the football, which is why also their pass defense hasn't been great either. In general, I think it's like 16th.
I mean, they lost by 4 to the Bills. They lost by a lot to the Steelers. They lost by 3 to the Cardinals.
That one I'll give you.
They lost by 6 to the Ravens.
That was a controlled game. That's like a lot. Other than the Cardinals game, they were all in hand the whole time.
But does that tell you that, like, see, here's my other point to that argument that DJ. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but they're going to force feed the ball to Leonard Fournette in this game.
I think they will,
and they're going to control it. They're going to control the pace of the game.
I also looked at it like this too, where I think Gardner Minshew is going to have a bounce back week, where he was very bad last week, and because of that, Chark was too. But other than last week, Chark has been very good this year in all the games that Minshew's gotten like 17 to 20 points, and fantasy wise. So I think Minshew's probably going to do that again this week.
Take that as you will. I'll say sit him. Okay. He says start him. And we'll come back to this and find out who really won that.
If Chark burns me this week, I'm done with you.
Who's your sit? Who's your sit at wide receiver?
It's Allen Robinson. Okay. I just think it's a tough matchup. He's going to go up against Marshawn Lattimore. And I know Trubisky's back, but yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay. My start of the week is at tight end is Zach Ertz against Dallas. I talked about him a little bit earlier. I feel like this is the game. Zach Ertz comes out, and he gets back to Zach Ertz like play. And I could be very wrong, but hey. And then my sit of the week, TJ Hawkinson against Minnesota. Why do you hate on
my Hawk, dude?
I don't hate on the Hawk. The Hawk is average so far this year.
Dude, he got down at the 1 yard line this past week. He almost scored.
He's the king of dropping balls at the end zone. The end zone.
He's gonna be. I think he's gonna be very good next year.
Like
and
next
years
year
to come. But this
he's
year,
like a sneaky guy. He's gonna get drafted. He's going to be on the drafted way too high list next year.
Oh, yeah, probably.
But I'll sit TJ Hawkinson against Minnesota.
Okay, my start is Darren Waller, actually, this week. Tight end, your guy.
Let's go, Waller.
I think he's going to have a bounce-back week, and then...
Well, he didn't play last week, so...
Well, but the week before that, he had 5 fantasy points.
It's going to be a great bounce-back from 0 points.
The last game he played, he didn't do good.
Yeah, they lost. The game script was lost on that.
Right, which is why I think people might panic and be like, he's really not that good, actually.
They were like blowing out the Bears in like London.
Yeah. The London games are so weird. And then my sit is Jared Cook. People have been getting high on him lately. He's had 2 straight weeks with double-digit fantasy points. He's back, baby. No, not this week.
Stop.
I'm not playing him.
That'll do it. That'll do it for our starts and sits of the week. And that'll do it for our last podcast for week 7. Wow.
And then when we have another podcast, it's going to be week 8.
It'll be just about week 8, yes.
That's going to be crazy.
That's crazy. Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Champions podcast. Don't forget to check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Talk to you Tuesday where we recap week 7.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter at TheFFChamps.